Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So over the weekend, Matty boy, I ran a quick Instagram Q&A. One of the things that came up a lot over the weekend was people asking about wedge bounce.
Okay.
Still very much a misunderstood thing, I think, as to why you would have more bounce, why you'd have less, what conditions you need both in. There's no club in the bag that needs to be more versatile than a wedge, that you're going to go into different scenarios really all the time.
Right.
Like you said, you might even have different, I know we do at our course, we'd have different sort of levels of depths of sand in different bunkers in the course.
Happens.
That's a challenge. Some of the bunkers, you've got soft sand, you need to go in with a higher bounce club, open it up a little bit. You go into some firm ones, you need it to dig a little bit more. Always trying to control that strike height.
And strike height is really the main thing you're looking to change with bounce. Like if you've got not enough bounce, your strike height's going to move too high. You're going to dig, you're going to have nothing on the ball. If it's too low, you're going to hit kind of thin, screaming shots across the green.
Yeah, there's 5 components that make up, a wedge. You've got the bounce, the sole width, the sole radius, you've got the bounce itself, what grind is on it.
Right.
And then you've got the effective bounce. Because all those things comprised make up an effective bounce number. So, the bounce measurement isn't always reflective of the effective bounce in the wedge. We're going to do some 60-degree wedge tests and take 2 real extreme cases. A 60-degree wedge with 4 degrees of bounce, which is about as low as you see. And then we've got a 16-degree 60 as well, so 60-16. We're going to try and talk, guys, a little bit about delivery characteristics as well. Obviously, when we hit a 50-yard shot and when we hit a full swing, we're going to deliver that club very, very differently.
Right.
There'll be different amounts of forward shaft lean. And again, the wedge will perform very, very differently in all these different scenarios. So we will look at the dynamics at play. We'll look at the club in 3D sort of space and kind of what it's doing and obviously the subsequent result off of that. So I think that's, again, so important when it comes to wedge fitting. And we get it all the time. I think people still maybe mock indoor wedge fitting.
Yep.
I get a lot of that. Look at you guys trying to fit wedges indoors. I think once you understand what's at play, you can do it effectively and very successfully.
And you've got the 4 eyes here on the cameras.
Absolutely.
I think that's what people forget. You're not just using artificial turf and going, oh, that sounded heavy.
Yep.
You're measuring to the millimeter where the strike is, and that is telling you how it is interacting with the ground.
You're right. You're absolutely right. There's, in an ideal world, you would do it outside, but can we do an effective wedge fitting indoors? We can, and we're going to show you how. So Matty boy, we've got it soft turf, firm turf.
Right.
So we'll start off in the softs.
This is the soft here. We'll use the stance area, which is very firm.
Little bit of give on the hitting mat. There's about an inch of depth to that pile. So something that would simulate, and we've done a lot of testing on this, something that simulates the strike height of a divot outside.
Yep.
Ultimately what we're trying to test. Guys, if you're hitting on links turf, if you're hitting on inland parkland, turf, the strike height's going to be very different on those. The launch conditions are going to be very different.
Yeah. We'll tink off the pin.
That was nice. Very good. That's nice. Okay, Matty boy. So the first little kind of station that we've got here, we've got the 6804 soft. On soft is the turf, and we've got the 60-16 on the soft. Biggest difference that we're seeing is kind of in spin.
Yeah.
Definitely because of the higher bounce, the strike is considerably lower. Consistently considerably lower. So yeah, it just looked like you were able to get the same result out of the higher bounce more often, Matty.
We just had to hit more shots with the super low bounce to get a little selection here, because as I said to you, I'd hit one a little bit thin, and then I hit one a little bit high in the face, and it would kind of go back and forth, and it would take a while to get what we deem to be like a regular strike.
Yeah.
So I think what I felt was the highest bounce wedge with this softer turf as we know, like you do get a little bit of turf behind the ball. I think that bounce was just kind of regulating the height that the wedge would come through. It wasn't allowing it to go any lower or higher. And that's why I think I had an easier time getting the 4 or 5 shots. Whereas this one, it really is all up to you. If you deliver that leading edge a bit too soon, it'll dig. And if you nip it, you can hit like a weird little low spinner.
That's right.
And that's where the different shots kind of came in.
And I think that, you know, we may have accelerated to the punchline of this whole thing right there, but that is it, right? So, you know, the variance of shot now, the higher the skill level of the player, they may want to control that entry point and where that low point is and the strike height and all those sorts of things. And that would lead you to think, you know, sure, the PGA Tour players might use the low bounce, but maybe that's not what the average golfer needs. But still, the most requested or the most played bounce in sand wedges in the PGA Tour is 14.
Okay,
the
so
F grind.
And that's high. That's high. That's a lot of bounce.
One of the reasons for that is it gives them the full soul to also grind. So it gives them the room for whether if it's Vokey, they're working with Aaron. You know, if it's Callaway, their tech reps, whoever it might be. But for Titleist, it's 14 degrees is the most played bounce on the sand wedge in the PGA Tour.
Quite interesting.
So, but I think 60 generally may tempt people to have a slightly lower bounce. You would use 10?
I'm using the 10,
yeah,
which I think is it's the best of both worlds. I feel that I can add a bit of bounce if I open the face.
Yeah.
And if you really want to take it away, you can always lean the shaft a bit. So it's versatile.
Let's lengthen the shot out slightly.
Okay.
Go 75. Nice.
Yeah, that's a good looking shot.
Hey, you're going to have to fire these ones past the pin. Yeah, you're having a really easy time with this.
Beat on it. Yep.
Very nice. Launch angle, fairly similar. I mean, about 0.4 of a degree higher launch with the low bounce. So higher launch, lower spin again, about almost exactly 400 RPMs, 401 RPMs of separation on the spin.
Right.
A little bit more retained ball speed. So really in all sort of measurements, all categories, the higher bounce is currently coming out a little bit better for you.
Yeah, better for me and better for just the consistency, I guess, of the strike.
And this is it, isn't it? This is why you hear manufacturers, you hear, you know, Bob Vokey, you hear, you know, whoever it might be say, bounce is your friend, use more bounce. It's not that on the one-off shots head to head, you know, a low bounce isn't effective, but if you couple all the shots you're going to hit together, you know, you will over time see the benefits of using a little bit more bounce. I hope this is a bit of an eye opener for people. No, I think that's really good. Let's go to the firm
surface
conditions. Okay, good. Yeah, that's lovely. Go on.
Win.
Oh. That's nice. So on the firms, if we look at that, yeah, very, very different. What was interesting to me as the session went, or the kind of went on there, you were kind of figuring out your delivery couldn't be the same. And I was kind of watching that go, like you were kind of just working out that steeper was a little bit better, and you were still kind of trying to use the bounce a little bit, which was shallow your angle of attack.
Yeah.
I'd also say probably that angle of attack is a little bit of bounce off the mat as well, which kind of will ricochet the club up a little bit.
Interesting.
Yep. So you know, there's a bit of that in there, but You know, they're considerably different. So, you know, steeper angle attack, slightly less delivered loft, much better ball data with the low bounce.
Yeah, lower launch, higher spin across the board.
Yeah, and this is obviously quite an extreme scenario that we're on here, but probably one of the reasons I really struggle because we don't, you know, the conditions that we play on are much more like our mat.
This is like what we play on.
When I go and play on links turf, you know, I do struggle for a while getting used to it because you really have to modify your delivery.
I would need a good day's session in the short game area. Like if we were going to Scotland next summer, I need a day to chip around. Probably even just to hit irons because the sensation is so different.
So different.
Yeah.
Very different.
That's really cool.
Okay, let's move into the 75. I mean, the strike sounds tremendous.
Feels really nice with that low bounce, doesn't it?
That's so nice.
Pretty much the same,
just having an easy time with that. That's so nice. Go on, this could be the one. Oh,
pin.
You dirtbag.
Twice.
Still spinning. All right, Matty, 76 yards, 75 yards. So both covered the same distance, but done it in a very different fashion, very different flight. What was the sort of user experience like with the two wedges?
So again, the high bounce one, similar to the 50-yard shot off the firm, it just felt like a little bit of a drop kick on most of them. I felt quite a thump. I mean, the ball took off, but you didn't feel the click of the ball so much.
Yep.
So to be honest, a little bit of a guessing game. I could tell they were launching a bit high and didn't spin as much, so it was a little bit of a worry that they wouldn't fly the right distance. Whereas with the low bounce, I could feel kind of contact in those bottom, you know, whatever, the fourth groove that we kind of like to hit it there. Felt a little bit more crisp contact, and the ball took off much lower and looked like it just kind of revved back to a stop. So
guys, hopefully try and put yourself in Matty's position. Try and think of the course conditions you play on. Try and think of the scenarios where you struggle. That should enable you to reverse engineer which wedge really is going to suit you a little bit better. We can see why you do really well with a 60-10.
Yes.
You know, you've got two scenarios where a 60-16 is too much and a 64. So you mean you've got 6 degrees. Your wedge is 6 degrees higher than the 4, 6 degrees lower than the 16.
It's right in the middle.
It's right there.
Yeah.
That's why you do so well with that.
It's a good point.
Right.
Yeah, 10 degrees has been good for me the last couple times you fit me for 60 degrees, so makes sense.
Exactly. We bumped you up because we had, I think we were 60-08, weren't we?
That's right, we were 08 previously.
In the first one with the M grind. Now we're at the S grind 10. So, you know, I thought your wedge game at Pinehurst was exceptional.
Those types of shots at Pinehurst, that's the best I've ever hit. 50 kind of yard shots. With that 60, I hit a bunch that kind of just stopped dead near the pin, and I was so happy with it.
Really high quality. Okay, guys, bounce is a difficult one to navigate. You know, let us know if there's anything we didn't quite uncover for you. If you're unsure of anything, you know, we'll try and dig back into that. But you know, hopefully you guys have an idea of why we want bounce in certain scenarios and why we want less. Ultimately, when you go for a wedge fit you should walk away with some versatility. Some clubs that are good in firm conditions, some are good in soft conditions, grinds, bounce options, whatever it might be. You know, that's how, as fitters, you know, we come to the conclusion of how we're going to make that wedge setup. That's ultimately to provide you with, you know, a tool in every scenario that you're going to find yourself in, so you're never stuck.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said.
Good stuff. Okay, stay tuned for more, guys. We'll see you again soon.